Hey, I wanted to take a minute to connect with you all who are in our leadership community and just say hey for one, and just say that I miss being with you guys. I just want to say you are the people who give and you serve and you just get it. You get what we're trying to do here at our church. And so I miss you guys. I love you guys. I love our church. I love what God was doing in our church pre-virus. I love what God's been doing in the middle of this whole quarantine season. And I love the opportunities that are before us as we go forward into the future. And I'm excited to share about some of those possibilities that I think we have with you pretty soon. I know many of you are ready to get back to normal, and that includes church. Others of us are not quite yet so eager about that. As a matter of fact, yesterday I was reading a survey that asked the question of people who have previously been engaged regularly in church. 46% said that they are not likely to return in the near future. And so we just certainly have a mixture of people who are tentative, and then those of you who are ready to run through the doors of the building whenever it's possible. And so the question is, all right, when are we coming back to church? And so I just want to give you a few minutes to kind of peek behind our thought process through all of this. There's just a multitude of considerations and factors that go into it, which I want to say have nothing to do with what I like. It really has nothing to do with what our staff prefers. It has little to do with any fears that we might have, or on the opposite side of that, any rights that we think that we actually have. And so I just would say, please, would you just kind of understand that there are daily conversations that are taking place, and information, as you guys know, is ever evolving. And so not only do we need to honor the parameters that have been set forth by our state and our local officials and follow CDC guidelines, we have to consider the logistics of a church our size. In other words, what do we do with our kids? What do we do with our cafe? What do we do with our volunteers, or maybe potentially lack of volunteers? What does it look like if we're not shaking hands or hugging people or setting up our auditorium with chairs that are 6 feet apart? And all the while we're encouraging our senior friends and at-risk members to stay at home. So there's just a lot that goes into the decision. And so considering all the recommendations, our elders and our staff giving their input, we have a few what I would call guiding principles, or maybe a framework for how we're approaching reopening. And here's the first thing I want to communicate to you is this. Number one, we were never closed. All right, we were never closed. You cannot stop the mission of the church. And we've seen that over the course of the last few weeks. It's never been easier for you to actually invite someone to actually watch a service with you. We have a lot of people in the world who are open to pursuing spiritual things, or at least considering Jesus and what he might have to say right now. You have a great opportunity before you to serve your neighbors. And so we're still on mission, but it's online. And so when we do meet again and face to face, we're not going to be reopening. I want us to think about it as regathering. Here's the second thing I want you to consider is that our goal is not to open as soon as possible, but rather to open as safe as possible. And so I understand that we can't live this way forever. I don't want to do that, and I hope that it's not much longer, but we do not want to meet too soon and potentially put people at risk, or, please understand this, to risk our reputation here in our community with people who see a lot of churches as being insensitive by moving too quickly. And so here's a third thing, is that we want our gatherings to be a great experience for everyone. We just want it to be great for everyone, from the youngest person to the oldest person, and for those who are most susceptible to maybe opening at this time. And so, again, we also want our gathering to be really great as a guest experience for people who maybe have been checking things out online but are ready to come here in person when it's time. And so I want us to have the best experience possible that keeps our church culture intact. So without a kids ministry, for many of you, without like coffee, without human connection, the distancing robs us of the power that we usually get in our gatherings. So, when are we regathering? That's the question, and the answer is, I don't know. I just want you to understand the framework that we're trying to work with. And please understand that we're using this time to monitor the situation in our state and in our community, to address safety and cleanliness issues, to gather input from you, our church family. Just know that our cleaning staff has already begun their weekly cleaning and sanitization processes. Our staff's been returning to the church offices to resume work, and we're working hard to consider a lot of potential options. There's a whole variety of possibilities out there because remember, wherever technology is possible, we have the potential for gathering to worship. And so let me give you just a couple of things I would ask you to do right now at this time. And one of them is, would you pray for me? And would you pray for our staff and our pastors and our elders that we would continue to lead our church with wisdom? On those lines, could I ask you to just give some extra grace to one another at this time? Because as I said, some of us are ready to move on, some of us are not, and guess what? It's okay. It's okay. So just give some grace to each other and pray for me and our leaders. 2 is, would you continue to worship online? Our team of staff, our volunteers have been leading us each week in fantastic worship. We've been giving you teaching. We've been giving you opportunities to grow and even connect and engage in community. So would you just continue to engage online? And that includes our preschool and our elementary services. And then here's a third step, and again, I would just say this, keeping in mind that we're approaching everyone with grace and compassion and kind of empathy, but consider maybe taking a step towards regathering by joining with a small group of your neighbors or your friends, or maybe some people from your connection group or others. Again, for those who are interested, you might consider to watch the worship services together in your home. Now, there's no doubt going to be some significant changes coming for our church and the way that we execute our mission, not only when we regather, but long into the future as well. And so as a church, can I just challenge you in the end? As a church, we will either get better as a result of what we have chose to do during this time, or we will actually be diminished for what we've failed to do. And so with all that said, I just want to thank you for remaining strong during all of this. I mean, that's my perspective. Thank you for remaining strong during all of this. It's gonna make us so much better going forward when we regather. So thank you for your patience. Thank you for your prayers, and I love you guys.